In January 2025, just 4 months ago, Mr. Tata, you posted on X that planning for President Trump's inauguration should, your word, assume that the National Guard and DoD are, quote, compromised at a minimum by hatred of the incoming administration. What information did you have about each member of the Guard and DoD that caused you not only to draw this conclusion, but to put it out there in public?
Senator, I had no information that
So you just said it about our Guard. You know, competence is based on the experience and performance of a military leader. Evidently, you have no information individually about the generals, the admirals, and the members of our National Guard and DoD who serve this country, and yet you're willing to say that they all need to be fired or treated as traitors. You seem to think that if a general or admiral was promoted during a Democratic administration, that person should be automatically fired. That's just a political purge and a pretty standard move for a dictatorship. I think it disqualifies you for this office.
Thank you.
When Elizabeth Warren asks the nominee, "Why did you post this?" it's not a gotcha. It's an institutional alarm bell. A single tweet can reveal whether a candidate understands the Constitution, the chain of command, and the human cost of turning the military into a political tool. Watch what happens when Anthony Tata tries to explain away his own words.
Thank you. Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our military is strong because each member pledges loyalty to the Constitution, not to a specific president or a political party. And in return, military service and promotion are not tied to a political party or personal loyalty. President Trump threatens that political neutrality with no explanation. He has fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the chief of naval operations. Secretary Hegseth has purged top military lawyers and called for removing, quote, woke generals. Former defense secretaries have called this a, quote, new political standard for military service. So, Mr. Tata, if confirmed, you would be the Defense Secretary's principal advisor on personnel matters. You've already made your views clear. On November 2024, you posted on X that a, quote, must do, close quote, for the Trump administration will be to, quote, review every four-star appointed by Biden and thank many for their service before firing them. Mr. Tata, what evaluations did you do for each of the dozens of four-star generals and admirals to convince you that each of them needed to be fired?
Senator, that comment was in response to a CNN article that had credible sources that several admirals and generals were having discussions on how to resist lawful orders from the president, usurping his Article 2 constitutional authority as commander-in-chief, which I find unacceptable. I think we can all agree that the Constitution of the United States that we swear an oath of office to, that I have done for many times in my career, is the ultimate penultimate document that we support and that we swear an allegiance to. And so if there were people that were having those conversations, if there were admirals and generals that were having those conversations.
Mr. Tata, I have your tweet here, and your tweet doesn't say, I want to investigate person by person and see what they've done. I also want to make clear that when generals are having conversations about what to do if they receive illegal orders so that they can still follow their obligations under the Constitution of the United States, then they are following the law. They are not breaking the law. But let's go on to what else you have said.
Senator, if I might, the article said controversial. Did not say illegal. And so controversial is very subject to interpretation.
I just want to clarify here. You want to say, you want to fire everybody. I've got your tweet here.
I don't want to fire anybody, Senator.
They gave controversial statements? I'm sorry, it says before firing them. Mr. Chairman, could I enter this into the record, please? Mr. Tata's tweet.
Is there objection? There being no objection, it is so admitted.
Let me try another one. On November 2024, you posted on X that the Trump administration should choose only leaders who are, quote, all oars in the water to achieve Trump Agenda 47. That suggests that you believe that generals should be picked for loyalty to Donald Trump. Is that right? Is that what you believe?
That is not what I believe, Senator.
Then why did you post this?
Well, I was a private citizen when I posted that, and
So when you were a private citizen, you said things you didn't believe?
As
Still are a private
Agenda
citizen
47,
right now, Mr. Tata.
Senator, let him answer the question.
Senator, I'm respectfully trying to answer your question. Agenda 47 talks about shipbuilding. It talks about reducing the wars that we engage in. And so as a leader, I support the idea, I support the president's vision that he had in Agenda 47, though, from a foreign policy perspective, and that's what I was referring to.
That is not what this tweet says. Mr. Chairman, may I enter this tweet into the record?
Without objection.
In January 2025, just 4 months ago, Mr. Tata, you posted on X that planning for President Trump's inauguration should, your word, assume that the National Guard and DoD are, quote, compromised at a minimum by hatred of the incoming administration. What information did you have about each member of the Guard and DoD that caused you not only to draw this conclusion, but to put it out there in public?
Senator, I had no information that
So you just said it about our Guard. You know, competence is based on the experience and performance of a military leader. Evidently, you have no information individually about the generals, the admirals, and the members of our National Guard and DoD who serve this country, and yet you're willing to say that they all need to be fired or treated as traitors. You seem to think that if a general or admiral was promoted during a Democratic administration, that person should be automatically fired. That's just a political purge and a pretty standard move for a dictatorship. I think it disqualifies you for this office.
Thank you.
This exchange matters because it's not about one bad tweet. It's about what a tweet signals when the person posting it wants to run personnel policy for the armed forces. The Constitution binds our military to civilian control and to an oath, not to a person or a party. That's the starting point Warren lays down. The military's loyalty is to the Constitution, and promotions, discipline, and command should be tied to competence, not to political fealty. When Tata wrote that the incoming administration must review and fire Biden-appointed four-star officers, he didn't just post a critique, he sketched a blueprint for a loyalty purge. That's the distinction Warren spends the whole time making clearer for viewers who may only skim headlines. Let's parse why that distinction matters, what valid professional concerns look like, and what the real-world consequences of a purge would be. First, context and constitutional guardrails. Military officers swear an oath to the Constitution, and the chain of command depends on predictable norms. Civilian leaders set policy, military leaders give professional advice and carry it out. There's a narrow, exceptional space where an officer might refuse an unlawful order, and when they do so, they're acting to protect the Constitution. That's lawful resistance, not disloyalty. It's an act rooted in legal, ethical obligation. Warren points this out sharply because Tata's tweets collapse that nuance. He conflates lawful, constitutionally grounded judgment with political disloyalty, and then suggests wholesale removal. That's where the danger lies, assuming that suspicion equals disqualification without individual assessments transforms oversight into purging. Second, the mechanics and consequences. Removing dozens of top leaders en masse would do more than rearrange names on a roster. Four-star officers are repositories of institutional knowledge, operational continuity, ongoing campaigns, alliances, and classified plans often depend on smooth professional transitions. A purge erodes trust in the chain of command, disincentivizes career officers from speaking candidly in private, and can hollow out morale. Practical problems follow: gaps in readiness, confused lines of authority in crisis, and strained partnerships with foreign militaries who expect stability. Warren understands and explains this in human terms. These aren't abstract org charts. They are people whose decisions in moments of crisis could save or cost lives. That human cost is what she brings to the hearing room so viewers realize the stakes beyond partisan headlines. Third, the burden of proof and public statements. When a public figure says we should fire them, a Senate hearing must ask on what basis, what evaluations, what evidence, what due process. Todd's evasions, citing a news article or invoking vague, controversial conversations, don't meet that standard. Warren forces him to concede he had no individualized assessments. That admission matters pedagogically. It teaches viewers how confirmation hearing scrutiny should work and why public tweets are not footnotes. They're pieces of a pattern that reveal judgment, temperament, and respect for process. Fourth, the political logic and historical parallels. Political purges are not hypothetical. Across history, they mark the slide from democratic norms to authoritarian consolidation. Warren's language, calling it a pretty standard move for a dictatorship, is intentionally stark, to wake viewers up to the slippery slope. She's not making a pundit's hyperbole. She's pointing to a pattern. When loyalty tests replace merit, institutions become dependent on personalities rather than laws. The military is uniquely vulnerable to that because it wields force. That's why norms around nonpartisanship are not mere niceties, but safety valves for the republic. Fifth, the nominee's responsibility. Being a private citizen on social media is one thing. Seeking a role that wields real authority is another. Todd's replies, attempting to reframe tweets as misread or as referring to specific policies like shipbuilding, demonstrate how public messaging can contradict private intent. Warren's cross-examination models a crucial lesson for viewers. When you accept responsibility for public office, your past public statements become part of your professional record. It's not spite, it's accountability. The Senate's role is to test whether a nominee's judgment, honesty, and respect for democratic norms meet the job's demands. Finally, what viewers should take away and watch for going forward. Pay attention to 3 signals in confirmation debates: specificity of evidence, do they cite assessments or rely on slogans, respect for process, do they advocate wholesale purges or selective documented reviews, and clarity about constitutional duties, do they prioritize the oath or partisan loyalty. Warren's technique, using the nominee's words to draw out practical implications, is a masterclass in democratic oversight. It shows how a single line on X can map onto real policy with profound consequences. This wasn't just a theatrical moment. It was a public lesson about what civilian control of the military actually requires: evidence, restraint, and an understanding that careers and lives are on the line. If you want more breakdowns that explain the law, the history, and the real human consequences behind headline moments like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Hit like if you learned something new. And tell me in the comments which part surprised you: the constitutional angle, the operational consequences of a purge, or the nominee's evasions. I'll pin the best replies and break the top responses in the next video.